Hey guys, how is everyone? Thank you for coming back for another video. I just want to let you guys know that today will be a graphic one, so just a warning. Today we'll be talking about Pazuzu Algorad, the Satanist who filed his teeth into sharp points and split his tongue into two. And while his choices in lifestyle were far from normal, he would develop a following and all would ignore his horrific past. All right, you guys, my name is Megan, and thank you for coming back to support me and my channel. Subscribe below because I talk about true crime, creepy, and disturbing things every week. So today's story is about Pazuzu. His dad, Timothy Lawson, and his wife, Cynthia, married in 1971. Fast forward to 1978 when they introduced their first child to the world, baby Pazuzu. Actually, John Alexander Lawson was his real name. He was born on August 12th, 1978, and he spent 2 happy years with his mother and father before they moved to North Carolina. They actually lived in San Francisco when he was born, but this is where he started 2nd grade, and shortly after this, problems started really arising. He was forced to take 2nd grade over again because he failed it, and arguments in the family home were also becoming a problem and meant at the age of 8, sadly, John's mother and father would split up, which would cause, obviously further problems with Pazuzu's educational and personal life. It affected all of those things. And it was during this time that his father actually decided that he wanted a divorce from his mother, and he did move back to California while leaving little Pazuzu, aka John, and his mother just to carry on with their lives and just, do the best that they can in this world is pretty much what, he said. When Pazuzu was 12, his mother actually remarried to a man named John Larry James. There's so many Johns in this story, so keep up with me, all right? And this is when the 3 of them moved into a house together on Nob Hill Drive in Clemens, North Carolina. This move greatly affected John's life in so many ways. He actually would start drinking alcohol at the age of 13. Like, who did that? But sometimes getting through a 12-pack of beer a day. So a 12-pack of beer and a bottle of liquor when you're 12. All right, sounds, where are your parents? But anyways, so real feelings of abandonment and betrayal were common in John's world, because around this time it was when John made some pretty huge changes to his life. And, it goes back to his dad leaving him and him drinking at 13. But in 9th grade, after trying to he had to take 9th grade for a second time. So while trying to take 9th grade for a second time, he actually just completely dropped out of high school altogether, which was located down the road from their house on Nob Hill Drive. So after dropping out, Pazuzu didn't try to find any kind of job, find any work, get a GED, anything like that. Instead, he started to fall into the world of drugs and a lot more alcohol. He was buying, using, selling, anything that he could. He became very interested in the occult and Satanism. And in 2002, he actually legally changed his name from John Lawson to Pazuzu Illa Algorad. So his name is legally changed to that. And now others around him really noticed a huge shift in Pazuzu's aura. He wasn't the same kind of person. He was kind of, evil, becoming evil almost. Where he was once, an energetic and ambitious friend, he was now very uneasy, apprehensive, and very dark. He also became agoraphobic, which, if nobody knows what that means, it's basically a very uneasy and scared feeling of other people, or just leaving your house in general to be around other people. He essentially became a recluse to the world. And later that same year, Cynthia and her most recent husband, John, would get divorced. So his mother got another divorce. And he ended up moving out of the house, which, once again, leaving Cynthia and Pazuzu all by themselves, just to fend for themselves. Pazuzu already was a very troubled man, but things would really start to go downhill pretty fast from here. So, on top of his multiple personalities, he was also diagnosed with schizophrenia and severe depression. He's taken medication for these illnesses, but as with everything else, they were abused. Weren't taken the way he was supposed to take them. Drugs became his only income of money, and satanic tattoos started to appear all over his face and body. He actually carved the number 666 into his skin, and braided metal into his hair. And he, at this point, stopped showering, stopped brushing his teeth, and actually believed that being dirty gave him extra powers, like he was special. It gave him like extra superpowers. His satanic rituals developed to new heights too. So on the full moon of every month, his mother would go to the local pet store to buy him a living rabbit. She would then give the rabbit to Pazuzu, where he would take it to the local Yadkin River and eat its heart out. Like, okay. He said this would provide him a rush like no other. Nothing else in his life compared to it. Like, nothing at all. Not even the drugs or the alcohol. He liked eating animals, eating human organs, eating everything. And even though Pazuzu was agoraphobic, he had a number of friends, as long as he had multiple friends and multiple partners also. His main partner went by the name of Amber Birch, who was known as Bubbles, and she would follow him religiously. The two of them and other friends of them would partake in bloodletting, which I should have looked that up. But they did this in local graveyards. Oh, I'm guessing like taking blood out of bodies in local graveyards, and self-harm while binge drinking at home. All of these bizarre hobbies would continue to escalate as well, as if they have not been any worse. He became obsessed with the famous cult leader Charles Manson, and through direct inspiration, he created his own family. He began to invite friends consisting mostly of younger women to live in his home, kind of like Charles Manson did, remember? And he referred to all of them, all of his girlfriends, as his fiancées. Another girlfriend's name was Crystal Matlock, and she would join Amber as one of Pazuzu's main girlfriends, and the three of them began to live a life of drugs, alcohol, rituals, and orgies with strangers. Oh boy. Their lifestyle descended further into madness. Pazuzu's mother's Cynthia was actually okay with confining herself, even though it was her house, with confining herself to her room only and giving Pazuzu, you know, free roam of the entire house. And this is when he began to trash it. I mean, really trash it, leaving garbage everywhere. He left animal shit everywhere. YouTube, don't come after me. Satanic markings started being painted on the walls and the doors, and the front door even had a handwritten, like it was this long, handwritten sign with a stick above it saying "No police are welcome." And the sign below taunted anyone who did support the police or the law to leave the premises, and another sticker that said "Evil will triumph." His lifestyle of drugs, drinking, and partying never ended, and his house became a place without any laws, rules, anything like that. Somewhere to be yourself without any kind of consequences. You know, you could do whatever you wanted to do. And it was during one of these parties, Pazuzu was very high and drunk, and he would bring up stories of murdering other people. He even claimed to have killed a couple prostitutes and ate parts of their bodies. So very disturbing. Friends of Pazuzu never took his claim seriously and kind of just shrugged it off as like, oh man, you're under way too much drugs, you're drinking too much, you're just hallucinating, you're thinking out of your ass, all this and that. But Pazuzu was always stone cold about these facts. They were always the same facts, you know, never mixed anything up. So fast forward to a couple years, and Pazuzu's partying only kept on. So from years of partying and not cleaning up the house at all, not washing anything, not cleaning up trash, nothing. It was a mess. It was so bad that the floors were almost impossible to see, and the home's odor was reported to be one of the worst smell that many visitors had ever experienced. And Pazuzu was still getting, you know, high, drunk, drawing on the walls with his own blood even, and going to great lengths such as pissing and shitting in front of his friends on his very own carpet in his house. He also filed his teeth with a Dremel into sharp points, and he split his tongue down the middle to look like a snake or lizard like creature. Very creepy. He is a scary looking dude. And while all these things are crazy to think about, they still aren't, none of these things are illegal. So he is still rambling about murdering people and killing prostitutes too. But now he was claiming he had a man in his basement. So he said he had shot a man 6 times, and now he was keeping him in the basement using cat litter and bleach to block out the odor of the smell of the dead body. And just like before, his friends, just as high and drunk as Pazuzu, just kind of shrugged it off and was like, yeah, whatever, man, you're just messed up. But the next day, one of Pazuzu's friends, Tarina Billins, remembered a conversation, and after seeing several members of Pazuzu's family acting suspicious with a shovel, that's when she decided to actually go down to the police station and inform them of what was going on. And it was on this day, on August 3rd of 2009, that Pazuzu picked up on the police's radar. So Tarina Billins met up with a detective in a local park and informed him that she had been told by a friend that Pazuzu had buried a body in his backyard. So police investigated by asking Pazuzu if any of this was true and if they could look around, and that's when he responded with no shit, you can't look around my house, nothing like that. And that's when police left with no further questions, no further investigation, nothing. The next month, on September 24th, a tip came in with pretty much the same exact information that Tarina Billins had, but surprisingly, police did nothing with this. Once again, Tarina would eventually go back to Pazuzu's with a secret audio recorder, and while recording, she received knowledge from him and several of his friends that he had indeed killed someone. And when this was given back to police, they finally executed, thank you, police, finally executed a search warrant on Pazuzu's property. But even with cadaver dogs, police found nothing. They couldn't pick up on anything. No trace of human remains were ever found. Nothing like that. The dogs didn't smell anything, nothing. So despite multiple visits from law officers over the course of many years, Pazuzu and his family and fiancés made no effort to tone down, their wild lifestyle. So instead of this is just a crazy story. I'm sorry for laughing. Instead things would get a lot more crazy. And in May of 2010, Pazuzu actually ended up choking out Cynthia, his own mother. She did press charges against him, but would eventually drop them later, saying that the first very serious incident occurred on June 7th, 2010, when a man named Joseph Chandler was found dead along the lake around the river, and he was shot in the back of the head. And eventually police would link his death to Nicholas Rizzi. Nicholas Rizzi was one of Pazuzu's very good friends, and Pazuzu evidently didn't have anything to do with this, but he did try to cover up for his friend. This case would end on a 13-month charge of involuntary manslaughter for Nicholas Rizzi, and for Pazuzu, he would only be charged with accessory to murder with 5 years probation at home. And later in 2011, it would be Amber that would assault Cynthia this time. However, Amber would never be charged or anything like that, because at this point, Cynthia didn't want to press any more charges against her son, his friends, or his girlfriends, saying she was fearful of her son's religious practices. So she did not press charges on them anymore. But finally, in 2014, luck did run out for Pazuzu. It was late one night in October at one of his house parties that Pazuzu asked one of his oldest and best friends, Matt Flowers, to help him murder somebody at their party. Matt declined the offer, and instead told the person that Pazuzu wanted to murder to get the hell out of the house immediately. And then Matt went to police the very next day. Like you, Matt. Loading them with his concerns and details. So he was just spilling it all, letting them know everything. It was from this new tip that police decided they would conduct a third search warrant of Pazuzu's property, which is ridiculous. And unlike the first and second time, this one would be different. So on October 5th, 2014, authorities executed their search warrant on Pazuzu's property at 2749 Nob Hill Drive. Pazuzu, along with his mother and anyone else that was in the house, was asked to vacate the home and leave the property. When police entered through the front door, it was as if they had walked through a portal into another world. I mean, the stench of filth, along with the contrast and atmosphere, instantly hit them. Graffiti and satanic symbols were everywhere, all over the floors, the walls, doors, everywhere. And the house was infected with both dead and alive flies. They had fly strips everywhere, along with dog shit, human shit all over the floors. Over 15 cats, multiple dogs, and snakes were also found on Pazuzu's property, which he would use to sacrifice. So those animals were obviously removed. And where there wasn't trash covering the floors, mold was covering the walls, the ceilings, and the basement was just as worse. Like, bad. It was very bad. Furniture was broken everywhere. I mean, every piece of furniture in this house was broken. And in the basement, with this space exposed to the outdoor elements, things decayed a lot quicker down there too. This is when police noticed an area in the corner covered with cat litter and to be smelling of bleach. And just like the story that Pazuzu was telling about murdering somebody, police noticed the ground to be unlevel, so they had to carefully dig. And when they did, their worst fears were confirmed. It was there that they did find the bodies of two men, both of them exposed so badly to the weather and the elements that the forensics team could barely see, you know, what they were working with. It would take a long time to even understand what they were looking at. The two men found were two men that had disappeared over 5 years ago, but just had been here in Pazuzu's backyard all along, even though people had been searching for them. The motive to why the men were killed was never identified, but after finding the bodies, Pazuzu and Amber Birch were both charged with 1 count murder and 1 count of accessory after the fact of murder before his trial. So before Pazuzu went up for trial, he actually ended up taking his own life on October 28th. He was found in his cell with multiple stab wounds and just blood all over his body. And this left Amber Birch to face the jury all by herself, all alone. She actually ended up entering a deal of pleading guilty to 2nd-degree murder, armed robbery, and accessory after the fact to murder. She was sentenced to, which just blows my mind, and let me know what you think, but she was sentenced to a maximum of 39 years behind bars and is projected to be released in 2045. In June 2017, Crystal Matlock, Pazuzu's other fiance, also pled guilty to conspiracy to commit accessory after the fact to second-degree murder, and was sentenced to a minimum of 3 years and 10 months. Whoop-de-doo. Like, come on, people. Like, what is going on? What are the police doing? What are the judges doing? Doesn't sound like much. But I'm going to end this case here. A horrifying case of negligence more than anything else, I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. I talk about true crime, creepy and disturbing things every week. I hope to be seeing you guys next week for a new video, but until then, I hope you have a fabulous day, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one. Stay safe.